So hey, I'm from the data center optimization team. We were a team that was created at the end of our last fiscal year, and then we got chartered and funded for all of this year and next year to drive data center optimization. My goal for all of you coming out of the session is to, one, understand what data center optimization is, and then on the second side of that, understand why it applies to you. How many folks in the room right now have had a conversation with their PDM or one of my peers about data center optimization? All right, good amount. I know we got a couple that have already signed up, so they can be living proof that it does work. So what I can say before I really get into it, I've been at Microsoft a little over 12 years, and yesterday when Brent talked about some of our funding programs suck, and they're hard to use, we're really working hard to make sure this isn't one of those programs that follow that path, right? We're really working and doing what we can to blaze a trail to make sure that it's easy to use for you. So understand some of that scar tissue you may have in the past, and we're doing everything we can to fix that. No. I got it. We're good now. So data center optimization is for any partner that has an influence over a data center. That could mean you're an MSP, that you manage hosting right now, you have your own data center. Any partner that has influence on a data center, I always like to reiterate that. And for every partner we've worked with, they're in it to either make money by diversifying their portfolio, they're in it to save money. I'll talk about that a little longer or a little later. They're in it to reduce risk or complexity, but every partner is a part of the program to help prepare themselves for the future. And that's a big part of our charter, is to make sure you're taking advantage of the features and functionality of Azure, taking advantage of the geographic scale of Azure, and really use this as your first step of that IP staircase. How can I move from my colo or from my hosted environment and package IP together to create something differentiating for the marketplace? Now, one of the things I'm happy to report here, and this is kind of hot off the press, is we do have a way now to transact with indirect partners. So if you're going through, say, an Ingram Micro or a SureWeb or whatever it may be, we have a path now to include you into the program. There's going to be a few slides that you see in here that actually say direct. Ignore that. We can do this for indirect as well. There are some nuances as part of that, and I'm not going to go into them right now. We can take that offline, but just know this is a holistic program now to where we can include you, albeit direct transactions or indirect transactions. So I always like to kind of start off with some success stories. The first pilot we did, what stuck away from they did less than $75,000 of Azure since the history of CSP. We ran them through this program. They moved over about 750 customers in 4 months. I just looked at their data a couple weeks ago. At a constant run rate right now, they'll do $1.5 million of CSP Azure this year. Last call we had with them, because we keep touch points along the way, they think their pipeline should be about $5 million for Azure this year. So we had some immediate results. So that's a great example of a company that took advantage of this and using it to make more money. All right. So Synoptek couldn't be here. They were also one of our first pilots. I have a question for you, though. Is September 10th, 2017 important to anybody in the audience? Who said that? Why is that? Hurricane Irma. That's right. Hurricane Irma. That was a big deal. And if your data center was where that white star is, you would be terrified. Absolutely terrified. Synoptek, either by design or just pure serendipity, made the decision to enroll in the program and moved their data centers in early September, avoiding all the risks for their customers. So while it can be about making money and saving money, or making money or saving money, there's always the opportunity to reduce not your risk, but our customers' risk and take advantage of that geographic reach. Instead of getting up in here and pontificating about some of the examples, what I wanted to do was bring Tom Nolte from Applied Tech on stage to talk about their experience inside of the program. What I like to talk about, or kick it off for Tom and speak for him for 1 second, is we had talked about them coming into the program for several months. You can see they started in August and completed in December. So it was fast and furious. Tom, thanks a lot.
All right, thanks. As TR said, we faced a decision early last year to try to look at a situation we had in a data center. We do a lot of disaster recovery backup, like many of you probably do as well for our customers. And our equipment that we had was co-located in our data center. We had a rack there, was getting old. We needed to replace it. And we wanted to be able to kind of practice what we preach and be able to do some things and kind of gain some expertise as well. So what we looked at is, as Azure as a solution, we also looked at the cost of what it would take to replace the equipment just to see what that savings might be. And over a 5-year TCO, we did discover that Azure was a much better situation to go into. So we got a hold of TR through Ava, our PDM, and started the discussions of this project, and immediately ran into a couple of issues that we needed to kind of take care of. We had 17 VMs that we were hosted or co-located at the time. We had about 110 customers that were impacted, and we did basically encrypted backups for that into our data center. And we also had some mission critical apps for Applied Tech as well there. What we found out though at the time, that Azure didn't support anything more than a terabyte of disk size of disk, and it needed to support virtualization in a nested format. And through that discussion, we got those particular issues resolved, and Azure does support that now. And so once we got through those hurdles, we started some very serious discussions of how do we engage TR's team and get that group to help us out. And one of the things that really helped us through that whole thing is it forced us to plan. Like many of you guys, we're a relatively small organization. A lot of people wear a lot of different hats. And a lot of times you start the project and you start to think, well, I'll just get it done and it'll be okay. And you don't really plan as best as you can. And the team really forced us to sit down and look to see what we needed to do and what success really meant. And that helped us also keep on track too. As always, there's a lot of things that come up. With an external team that was involved with it, we felt obligated to keep going and not put something else in front of this. In addition to that pressure, we also wanted to get it done by the end of the year as well. And that commitment from us as well as from Microsoft kept the project on track. And I think the big piece of the puzzle along the way was we had that peace of mind that we could lean on the technical experts at Microsoft so that we didn't have to do it ourselves and kind of walk through the woods in the dark looking for a solution. And we had some great success. We started basically late August, early September, and with a hope to get it done by the end of the year. We were out of our data center first week in January, and completely everything all wrapped up and ready to go by the end of January. Contracts ceased at the end of January in our co-located data center. And everything really, I'm not sure why I'm surprised, but it went perfect. It just went right down the line. We did eliminate a huge capital outlay that we had. We really got to more of a predictable monthly expense that we were looking at, very much like what we've been preaching to all of our customers along the way. And in the middle of the project, we actually ended up acquiring, for a lot of great reasons, one of our largest customers actually. And they had a big disaster recovery requirements. We also acquired some business from a partner that had some trouble. And we literally increased our disaster recovery storage needs probably 20 or 30%, like almost overnight. And if we would have had to done that in our current co-located situation, we just wouldn't have been able to do it. With Azure, we really just went to the portal and dialed up more disk space, and away we went. So it really was a complete non-issue from that perspective. So that was a huge surprise and pleasant one at that along the way. So I think the other big piece that we got out of this more than anything, our guy that does a lot of our new technology and new product development stuff, he's a great person. He's a very technical person, but he's kind of guy that needs to see it and prove it before he's really on board and can really stand up in front of a customer and brag about it. This put him right front and center of Azure. He was with the team, did a great job through the whole process, and he is a big flag waver of Azure now. And we are proposing Azure pretty much on a daily basis. So it's really helped our sales situation. It helped our technical support side and certainly our installation side as well. So we're looking, we had almost no Azure spend really in September. We're at probably about 13-14% increase as of the first of the year. And we're looking at probably a 20% increase by middle of this year and probably somewhere in the 30-33%, hopefully by the end of 2019. So we're looking at some significant changes in our organization because of it. So we really, I don't think we could have done it without the team. So we really appreciate the help, and it was to their success and our success as well.
Thanks. Yep. Tom will be back out here for questions at the end too, so appreciate that. There we go. So like I said before, if you're managing a legacy cloud or you're in charge of helping companies with mergers and acquisitions, or looking at deprecated equipment yourself, data center optimization team's here to help you. And really what you get out of it is you're going to be able to leverage the economies of scale of Azure. You're truly going to simplify costing. As the data center has multiple pieces and parts, costing on that is difficult. The depreciation cycle of those is difficult. Getting that to line up is difficult. So if Azure is on your roadmap, but those factors I just mentioned complicate it, DCO is here to help, and we'll talk through some of the additional benefits later as well. So from a technical feasibility, we've created some rapid tools to actually help go through and map what you're currently using and move it into Azure. We're actually working with some of the ISVs to provide their tools as well to drive some of the lift and shift technologies and take advantage of what they've been able to create. I'll go into the economics here in a second in terms of what we invest and whatnot, but we actually provide a laborious financial output based on your projections, your data that you have of what it takes to manage your data center versus what it takes to move to Azure and then have costs month over month via Azure. And then from a business transformation perspective, I like to provide a couple examples here. One, the big stack of papers that are installation books, all those warranty books that you had, you'll be able to get rid of those, and whoever manages that will be able to drive real transformation within the organization. We actually worked with a partner that took advantage of this, and they've kind of established themselves in pitches now as the ADT of the cloud. They didn't do anything special, though. They're just taking advantage of technologies like Barracuda in the cloud, and that's how they're differentiating. So when they go into a client, they're going to harden all the servers. You get this additional service. We charge this for you. You're going to be hardened and protected from the bad guys. So it really opens up your ability to differentiate across your customers. So if you've previously been on a call with this, you've seen this slide, and it's a lot more laborious. I've made it simpler for this call. If we follow up and talk, this slide will be a lot more laborious, so I'll leave it at that. But our goal in our kickoff is to make sure you have 3 prereqs out of the way. One is an NDA with Microsoft, because we will share very detailed information with you. 2 is you are transacting in CSP, albeit direct or indirect. And 3, we send a non-binding letter of intent to you. What that means is you're going to be serious about the kickoff, and so or about the project, and so are we. It does not bind you to anything. It's just so that when I take it to Dave Smith, I say, hey, these guys are really serious about it, and we've all agreed to the rules of engagement. From there, we go to exploration, which is really our exercise to have you send us your data about your estate so that we can begin to analyze them. That's pretty simple. From a consultation perspective, we want to be successful. So as part of this exploration stage, we go through a pretty laborious exercise to sequence and start looking at what you could move to Azure, when you're going to move it, how much consumption that's going to drive so that we can sign you up for the right program. Implementation is exactly what you would expect. We officially enroll you in the program. We open up some of our benefits, which I'll get into in much more detail. Provide migration assistance when you need it. And this is where you take over and start moving your customers into Azure. And then post-migration, we're continuously investing in go-to-market. We're taking advantage of strong partners like Applied Tech and bringing them on stage. And we're going to continue to drive case studies out of this process. So I like to dive in here, just kind of give you more context so it's not so abstract of what we do with the financial model. This is one of the rapid tools our team produced. What we found is when partners go and try to analyze, they overanalyze. So they're like, well, give us one more month because we're waiting for this compelling event. And then we continue to kick the can down the road. So this provides us a rapid tool. And this is a direct mapping. I actually scrubbed it a little. But this is an example of 10 VMs, what it would take to move them from a current estate into Azure. Now you'll see what we can do with this rapid tool. We can set many variables. So most importantly, variance, right? How much memory are you really using? What's the actual processing power you actually need? So we can play with variances. And you'll see in the blue at the top, here's our direct cost. If we pick it up and move it over, you're looking at a little over $2,000. If we start to optimize along the way, we think we can get you down to $1,733, right? And we're pretty confident in this tool within a degree of about 10%. So our goal here is to get in, pull your information, and start to map it and work with you. So part of the program, we don't hoard this tool. We make it available to you. We're working to get it on GitHub for people in DCO so that it's at their access. But to go through and model, hey, if I had these 500 different servers, how could I move them over in stages? What is their peer going to be inside of Azure? One of the important pieces that comes out of this is we've actually, I wanted to point this out, on the far right you'll see the green. What it would take if I started to differentiate a little. What if I started to add Azure Site Recovery to my portfolio and did upsell there? What if I started to add Azure Security Center to my portfolio and upsell? So we actually go through the whole process of, well, what if at this point, for various reasons, we can't move over our estates, but we could go out to all of our partners and resell, or I'm sorry, all of our customers and resell Azure Site Recovery. So there's several ways for us to model this and bring different variations to your attention. We update this on a monthly basis to always include the latest CSP price sheet. So it's as accurate as it could be on a month-over-month basis. All right, so the benefits are as follows. You see in the top half, that's everything programmatic as part of CSP. Where we layer on top of that is, as you scroll to the bottom, Azure sales training and monthly office hours. So we have our team. It's available through monthly office hours. We put together some training material. It was actually, I think, 4.5 days of training that we provided virtually and then making recordings available to everybody that comes inside of DCO. We're using feedback from our partners in terms of where we can scale and take that. So it's not going to be something that's a one-time event. We're going to continue to invest in training based off feedback that the partner community provides us to where we could help them scale and grow. You saw the example of the cost assessment tool. We built another tool to where we can take that data and marry it up with all the data you can provide in terms of managing your data center. And we can get a 3 to 5 year projection of managing something in a data center versus moving it to Azure. Also, as part of this program, we've invested in a help desk. Now, I don't want to characterize this as a replacement for advanced support for partners because it is not. But what it does is helps us triage issues as you run into them. So at the ground level, we have a systems integrator that provides us 24/7 support. At the highest level, we have access to the Azure CAT team. So I'm working with a partner now out of New York. They were running into some challenges moving very large Oracle machines into Azure. We were able to get the Azure CAT team. Everybody familiar with the Azure CAT team? So it's the customer advisory team. So it's the field resources that sit on the Azure team. So they're available to us to solve big, complex problems. So if you think you have too complex of a problem at hand, we can bring the Azure CAT team to help us solve it. So the Azure CAT team has been very instrumental in us providing this relief. And then additionally, we have access to extend the Azure Site Recovery credits. As it sits right now, if you want to use ASR to move something in Azure, you can use it for 30 days. We have the ability to go in and extend that for a longer period. It's not indefinite, but it's another benefit we can provide to help move workloads into Azure. So those are the benefits. More importantly, what you're wondering about is going to be the investment. So we have two tiers, and this is an example where I said it says direct, but ignore that. So by default with CSP, you're going to get a 33% discount, or up to a 33% discount depending on your program and whatnot. So that's the left hand of the slide. For a light investment, which means that as a partner, you're going to commit to getting to a total of $250,000 of consumption over a 13-month period, and that's above your current water line. So if you're doing $100,000 a year, our deal would be for $350,000. And what we provide upfront is up to 6%. So you could get up to 6%. So in this example, about $15,000 of investment upfront, and that's for you to use either to pay yourself to do the migration, to pull in an SI that you don't compete with to do the migration. It's up to you to use that money to help drive the migration. So that is an ESIP process. We're working on that, make it a little easier. The milestones, as we look at them, are much simpler. So at milestone 2, when you hit 50% of your consumption commitment, you would get a 5% rebate on your Azure bill. So when you got your CSP bill within 30 to 60 days, boom, it's just a magic rebate. So we're working to make it much easier to achieve and receive the benefits of the program. At milestone 3, you would get the additional 5% rebate along the way. After milestone 3, what we want to do is say, that was a lot of fun, let's go do that again. So this is an opportunity that we build and we grow over time until we've hydrated everything from your data center into Azure, or continue down a hybrid approach. So that's the light investment. Like I said, there are some nuances if you're indirect, but we can tie you up with the right folks at the providers to have you provide the explicit benefits they provide as well. So we also have a premium tier. And the premium tier is a minimum of $500,000. And so because of that, the benefits get a little better. Same concept applies. You have a water line we set, you add $500,000 to it, we need to get that in a 13-month period. At milestone 1, we would go up to 10%. So if you committed to getting $500,000 over a 13-month period, we would provide $50,000 up front. Again, for your discretion to move workloads and pay yourself, to go hire an SI, it's completely up to you on how you're going to use those funds, as long as it drives Azure consumption. We've increased the milestone payments to be a little more lucrative too. So it would be 7% at milestone 2, which would equate to $35,000 at that milestone as long as you hit it within 13 months. We also have an a Linux accelerator. And so what that means at milestone 2, and this is a complete sequencing event. At milestone 2, if 50% of your virtual machines are Linux, you would get an additional 5%. Right now, We actively are working with a couple hundred partners. I think we've had less than 5% that are really angling towards this. So realize it doesn't apply to everybody, but it is out there for you to take advantage of. And then the third part of it is, again, the 7% that you would get on the back end at program completion. And we went over the requirements, but you just need to be a CSP provider. We get the LOI in place. We spend a lot of time making sure that we hit we're not going to push you too hard, right? I think this is a great example of a Microsoft that's strategically patient. So we do a lot of upfront work, but when we say go, like Time talked about at Applied Tech, we go and we execute with urgency, right? So we're going to push, but not too hard because we want to make sure we're all successful. So it's not a sales job where we say, hey, you think you can do $500,000? Well, what if you tried $1 million? We don't do that at all. We want to analyze all the numbers and make sure that we're all going to be successful together. So I wanted to recap here. As I said in the beginning, if you're having an influence on data centers, let's talk. If you're hosting infrastructure, let's talk. If you're looking across your life cycle of infrastructure right now, let's talk. Like, we're continuously, our goal remains the same, to drive Azure consumption, but our methods continue to evolve as we talk to our partners and learn from them. So what I wanted to do there was bring Tom back on stage and turn it over for Q&A. And I have really bad ears, so I'm going to make somebody hustle real hard with a microphone. All right, I'll get right to you. I'll have her start here and then. There we go.
My first question, I have lots of questions, but I'll just go with one.
Yeah, if you have lots of questions, I'll be here the rest of the day.
All right, sounds good. The first question would be, we're partners with different DR solutions. So, one of the benefits that we're internally struggling with, because we've had this debate about doing an Azure site recovery, an Azure-based focused disaster recovery sort of plan and a mechanism. The one thing that stumps us every time is like, okay, well, how do we, with having other resources like Datto or Infrascale, we have a dedicated support team with them, and I know you're creating a support team, but we can use lower level resources on our end to call and do a restore or do all those things. But with Azure, the struggle that we actually have a few clients that we tried Azure site recovery with. What we struggle with is like we cannot use lower level resources to do recovery and that kind of stuff. So is that something that you're working on? Is that something that will be better as we go along, or is it better through the program?
It's not something I'm actively working on, but it's good feedback that I can provide. Like I said, if that's blocking us and we look across all the partners and how do we continuously evolve, that's something we'll definitely take up. And then over here there was a question. Yeah, to Azure Gov. Yeah, that's a great question. So yes, we actually just got cleared last week that all of our contracts have been blessed and we can do Azure Gov as well.
So in the premium program, you mentioned there was a Linux accelerator. Just to clarify on that, you said it's a 50% of Linux loads to get to there. Did you mean that, or did you mean 50% of the quota attainment for 250K? Because if we have a very large customer, we have quite a few of, that have 20 Linux machines, we'll never see the accelerator.
That's right.
So what we're seeing is you're saying that program is designed to target all Linux loads.
Yes, it would be the count of VMs.
Okay.
So if you had one Windows machine and 50 Linux machines when you hit that, you would qualify for it. So it's 50% of the VM counts when you hit that milestone.
So it's designed for companies with Linux loads.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. It's really into sequence, right? So if you have Linux, let's get those out of the way first, because we always want to continue to drive our Linux footprint.
Hi, my name is Jeff Goldstein. You'll have to ignore my ignorance because I'm a Microsoft Dynamics partner, but we're being asked to sell everything. So with these migrations that you did, who paid for the migrations? Was it the client?
Yeah, so no. The majority of it we've been able to accomplish through the upfront investment to train the trainer and pay them to do it themselves. So I think Tom would be probably the best person best to provide an example of how they were able to accomplish it.
Yeah, we've financed that really through some rebates through Microsoft through that program. And we financed the program ourselves primarily because it was a benefit to our business plan to get our disaster recovery people over to that storage and off of our infrastructure itself. So from that perspective, we were the client and the partner all at the same time.
Okay. Yeah, so when we talk about partner and profitability, in this case, I guess Microsoft was paying for it. They won't do that for everyone. How do we factor that into profitability? And then when you showed your graph over on the left axis, you showed percentage. What was that percentage of what? I don't know if you have that slide up, but you showed a graph, and there was a percentage. It said 30%, 40%.
That was a percentage of our MRR billings on a monthly basis. So we're an MSP, so part of what we do is we do monthly recurring revenue kinds of things for support, help desk, as well as, in this case, Azure. So that increase really is the amount of Azure billings that we send to our customers on a monthly basis.
Now, do you bill your customers monthly? Do you make them prepay? What if they don't pay you for a month? Do you turn them off? How do you handle situations like that?
It's actually paid on a monthly basis, but it's really, we get a bill from Microsoft. We're a CSP provider as well, so when we get the bill from Microsoft, we present the bill to the customer.
And it's based on consumption, correct?
Correct.
So then what if the customer doesn't pay the bill?
We have some contracts that we have, but yeah, it's a collection issue.
Right. Okay. All right. And has your profitability gone up or has it gone down? Because you showed increase in revenue. I don't care about revenue increase.
Right.
I care about profitability. We never talk about profitability. We talk about revenue.
At this point, our profitabilities went up primarily because of internal expense reduction with Azure spend as opposed to the capital outlay that we had. But as we're now selling Azure spend out to customers to get their infrastructure off of their own infrastructure onto Azure, and that we have very little cost on because we don't, it's just a spend from their perspective, so it's a pure profit perspective from there, other than implementation fees up front, and we charge for that as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Quick question, because I really never understood this fully, but I was explaining at the beginning, I'm a direct CSP partner.
Okay.
I was explaining at the beginning that we weren't allowed to put our own workloads inside of Azure under CSP because we had to pay full price for it. And we probably have like 220 VMs. Most of them are I would consider them internal machines that we share across lots of clients. They don't really fit inside of a client tenant.
Right.
How does that work? Is there any way is it allowed for us to create like a shared tenant where?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, if it's your workload exclusively for you, you cannot do. I mean, you can do the was it PSS, right? But then you pay full price. Sounds like a pretty good opportunity for a partner out here to connect up with him and resell CSP to him. We're looking into how we would provide multi-tenancy right now to allow you to do that, so it's not so rigid and everything has to squeeze into a single customer tenant. So that's actually something we've actively talked about. And that's all I can share at this point.
Is the slide deck available that you used?
Yeah. I'll make it available to. Well, David already has it, so yeah, as long as he makes it available here. If not, I'm Sloan at Microsoft.com. Hit me up. I'd be happy to share it with you.
So we're in a very similar situation to Applied Tech story. What are our first steps? How do we get started? I'd love to engage DCO.
Email me.
Okay.
We'll get started on Monday.
All right.
Okay. Just on the tool, is it pure capacity planning, or does it do anything else insightful, like talk about systems that work together, or any sort of latency requirements, or anything that I would say is a little smarter than
Yeah, it's
know?
a pure lift and shift. So if we need to get in something more exact, like in sequencing or how things connected together, we can look at using Cloudimize, right? Something like that. But for the most part, partners have a really good feel. Like, hey, I have these 17 that need to move in tandem. Then we need to do this, and we need to do this, and we need to do this. So we can do both.
Okay, thanks.
Talk a little bit about the pricing calculator. We've had a few instances where we've used it and the estimates haven't really matched what's come out of the production use, and we've had a few clients come back unhappy.
Our pricing calculator or the pricing calculator on?
On the portal.
Oh, on the portal? I would have to defer to somebody else. The portal calculator is outside of mine.
You have something that's more accurate?
No, so the back end of what we've created is all fed by the portal calculator. So I would say if you are having a challenge with that, one, talk to your PDM, two, log a ticket in the portal immediately and provide, hey, it said this and we ended up here. That's something that either needs to be fixed or we need to explain to you in very good detail why there's an incorrect process or something on those ways. But yeah, talk to your PDM, get a ticket open immediately.
Hey, TR. Did you talk about what the requirements are for participation in the program, whether partners be indirect or direct CSP?
Yeah, so the way it used to be direct only, right? That was one of our qualifying. We actually signed up one of the indirect partners last week, and we're on target to sign up 3 more over the next couple of months. The difference is if you're going to go through an indirect, they actually have to register you, right? So they say, for an example, indirect provider 1 wants to sign a DCO commitment with us and have you be a part of it. They actually have to earmark you on that commitment, right? And that commitment could last a year, could be 3 months. Like, I'm not sure exactly how often we're going to be able to update it. The answer right now is that we can't update it after it's signed. So if it's something you're interested in, reach out. We'll definitely get you connected with the right people to get you involved in the program.
Thank you.
How'd you move your clients, change their expectations, right? Because we run a data center, and I have somewhat controllable costs, right? And I know what they're going to be. I understand the capital outlay, right? So you're moving this to a different place on your finances, on how you pay for it. But how do you change that with them, right? I'm not charging people for consumption in my data center because I know what my costs are going to be, so they have a relatively fixed cost. And this is a whole different mindset for customers. So how do you make that shift with the customers?
We actually didn't have, we have a managed data service that we have for disaster recovery, and it's a set fee. And what we did is made sure when we worked with TR's group that our cost was under that fee, and it was under enough that we made the money that we were anticipating making with that particular service. So from a customer standpoint, they didn't see a difference whatsoever. The bill was the same. We pay ourselves the Azure spend, and they just see it as a backup service that worked just the same as the way it did yesterday.
So you're charging them a fixed cost?
Correct. And we're absorbing the Azure spend ourselves.
So what do you do when they grow?
Our fixed cost goes by the number of terabytes that they do a backup with.
Okay, so it varies with that.
Yep.
So you're just doing DR with them in this case?
In this particular case, yes.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
All right, I think that's it. Well, I do appreciate everybody's time. As I said, trsloan@microsoft.com. If you're too shy to ask a question, shoot me an email, and I'll be walking around here the rest of the day for anybody that wants to talk.